Welcome to the Aging Well Firefighter, the podcast for first responders, our families, and the communities we serve. Whether you're on the front lines or standing with us, I'm here to help you fight wisely and age bravely. Hey everyone. So my latest article, and this podcast is a follow-up to it, was about myths that we tell ourselves. And I kind of started out with some kind of humorous little funny things like, hey, the snooze button will help me feel better and more rested. And I'm just going to spend just a couple minutes on Facebook and stuff like that. But I get into some more serious stuff, the myths that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves to convince ourselves or justify our choices or help us feel less anxious about a situation or maybe avoid admitting the truth of a situation to ourselves. And there were two really kind of key ones that I finished up with that I think are really the heart of why I wrote that article. And one is if I can't be perfect at something, why bother doing it at all? And I see a lot of people who kind of convince themselves of that myth, the perfectionists. And sometimes it's not even really perfectionism. Sometimes it's just being scared to start something, being afraid to start something new or something that might be difficult. So we tell ourselves, oh, you know what, I'm not going to be good at that, so I'm not even going to try. And I've done that myself. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And then the other one was the I'm not that person myth. The whole, we see somebody doing something impressive that we convince ourselves we can't do. There's something, they're built different, or there's some kind of special physiological quality that they have that gives them this capability or things like that. And we convince ourselves that this person is different than me, so I'm not going to be able to do this. And it kind of lets us off the hook from trying, or gives us an out when we want to quit. And I want to talk about that too. Those were two really very limiting myths. They really limit our potential as people. They limit our impact among our peers, among our coworkers. They limit our impact in our community. And I hear a lot of these myths all the time. I really did get them out of real life. I want to share a couple other sort of myths here that I've come across. And one in my work in fitness is the I have to get in shape before I hire a trainer myth. And I never really understood this. To me, this was kind of like people who say they have to clean their house before the housekeeper comes over. I have literally had people tell me, boy, I really want to hire you as a trainer, but I need to get in shape before I do that. And I'm baffled by that, because that's my whole purpose, is to help people get to where they want to be fitness-wise and wellness-wise. I've heard it from so many people. And you know, some people think it sounds perfectly reasonable to hey, I need to get working out first before I hire a personal trainer. But really, I think that kind of fits in with the whole, if I can't be perfect at something, I'm not going to do it at all. The whole, I'm going to kick the can down the road to this future me that might exist at some point, and I'm not going to take any action right now because I'm afraid I might not be good at it. Here's why that is a really horrible myth to fall prey to. If you're acknowledging the fact that you need help from somebody, whether it's with fitness or with your mental health, or you think you might be sick and you need to see a doctor, anything like that, you need help with your homework or a class that you're taking, personal trainers, teachers, therapists, we exist to help you start and to meet you where you're at, not to judge you from the point where you're beginning or judge you for the point where you're beginning. And like I said, it's kind of along the lines of the whole I need to clean my house before I have the house cleaner come over. Listen, the best time to get help is when you need it and when you need it most, not when you think that people aren't going to judge you for getting help. There's always going to be somebody out there that's a judgy McJudgerton and is going to talk to people. If you live your whole life worried about whether the town gossip is going to talk about you behind your back, you might as well not leave your home. Because everybody struggles with that feeling of being judged or not feeling good enough. And I'll be perfectly honest, I have struggled with that as well. And I struggle with it all the time. Some of my closest friends, my wife, know that I struggle with imposter syndrome. I wrestle with my own limiting beliefs. And most recently, this came to a head again during my Advanced EMT class that I was taking. The inner myths that I kept telling myself, and I still tell them to myself. So here's the pot calling the kettle black. They literally almost made me drop out of that class. I was super insecure about that class. I am good at learning subject matter. I am good at taking tests. But I always question myself when it comes to performing practical skills. And, I prove over and over that I can actually do it. But during this AEMT class, I was extremely insecure and I was extremely self-limiting in that, especially when it came to one of the scariest skills I felt I had to perform, which was doing IVs. When we got to the point in class where we were going to be doing IVs on each other as practice, I was freaking out, man. Ask my wife. I actually reached out to one of my instructors and explained how I was feeling. I was certain that I was going to do very badly. I was certain that I was going to hurt somebody by doing this. And I spent like 2 or 3 days going over and over and over all the resources I could possibly find on IV access and studying veins and things like that. And I mean, ultimately I did do it, and I got all the IV sticks that I needed as part of my student experience to be able to pass that. But even not graduating, but even passing through that class, getting my national certification and getting my licensure and my credentialing as an advanced EMT, my brain still tells me I will never be as good as the people who surround me. I will never be as competent as my instructors, that they'd have something that I just don't have, that maybe I'll never have. And it's that that I'm not that person myth, and that, boy, I need to be perfect at something myth that I keep falling victim to. And that's why I was so anxious, maybe anxious is the wrong term. That's why I really wanted to write this article, to address specifically those two. And like I said, during my AEMT class, that imposter syndrome got so bad that I almost quit class. I literally almost just said, I'm not even going to bother going back because I can't finish this. Lots of people do this. They convince themselves they can't do something, and they put others up on a pedestal, giving them maybe these mythical qualities that the person may or may not have, to justify how they feel about themselves. That, maybe, oh, this person is so much better than I am. They have some quality that they have that I don't, so I could never do what they can do. I might as well just quit. Now, here's the funny thing and the really ironic thing. I doubt myself all the time. All the time. When I first started in fitness and started doing group exercise classes, there was actually one time when I was doing a new group exercise class. I was so sure that I was going to bomb teaching that class. I literally begged my wife the night before to go in and teach that class for me. I doubt myself a lot. I'm getting better about it. I'm trying to be better about it. But the ironic thing is, with how much I doubt myself, I have also been on the receiving end of that mythical status treatment. People have looked to me as that person on the pedestal that they could never possibly measure up to. I've sat across the table from people who I've been trying to talk to about how I coach. I try to make my coaching, my fitness training, a very inclusive experience. I strive to meet people where they are and to get them moving at a basic level first before we progress anything. But still, even through that, even through telling people that I really believe that anybody can be well and fit and an active person throughout most of their life or all of their life, I had literally had somebody sit across from the table from me and call me a freak of nature. That I'm different than everybody else. There's something that I have that nobody else has. I'm a freak of nature. I shouldn't expect other people in my age group to be able to exercise regularly or work out. I sat in a fire meeting where somebody coming into our fire department referred to me as the legendary Roy Smalley. I write articles for the State Fire Journal and things like that. I had no idea that people looked on me that way. I don't want people to look on me that way. People should not put me on a pedestal. But I hear people say all the time, wow, I could never work out like Roy. I can't do that, assuming that I do these hardcore workouts. And I think these people don't really realize how moderate my workouts really are now. My goal isn't to be a hardcore workout of the day, whatever. My goal is longevity, to stay healthy and fit and active as long as I possibly can, to not get hurt doing my job in the fire service. So here's the problem. When we lift other people up like that, when we add a sort of mythology to them or put them up on a pedestal, I mentioned this before, we're giving ourselves an excuse to not even try. We're giving ourselves an excuse, a way out, a way to quit. And psychologically, that's a way that we use to avoid that discomfort or risk or, honestly, the vulnerability of feeling like a beginner in front of people. I really think that's what it is. But here's the real story. Here's the truth. Nobody starts out as a legend. Nobody. Everyone that you admire or respect or look up to or even put on a pedestal, myself included, started somewhere. I was really overweight and completely sedentary. Everyone started somewhere. And most of us have felt like an imposter at some point, like we have no business doing what we're doing, that somebody's going to suddenly turn around and point to us like Donald Sutherland in at the end of Invasion of the Body Snatchers and scream at us because they realize that we're an imposter, we don't fit in. But the difference between people who are doing it and we people who maybe feel like we can't is that the people who are doing it show up over and over and over again. They were not superheroes to start. They just started. And you don't have to be a superhero to start what you want to do. You just have to start doing it. Look, the people that you look up to are not mythical. They're not legendary. They're just people who kept showing up and trying. So, listeners, you who's listening right now, I want to turn this back to you. If you haven't read my article, go back and read it. And I want you to think about what's a myth you've told yourself. What's a story that you've come up with in your head that's held you back? Have you ever found yourself putting someone up on a pedestal to avoid either trying something new or to escape the discomfort of feeling like a beginner in front of everybody? To try to avoid the insecurity of feeling like you're going to fall flat on your face if you do this thing that you want to do. Share that with me. I would love to hear about it. Send me your stories. Send me your questions. Send me the myths that you've caught yourself believing. And if you do that, I'd love to feature that at some future point in an episode or a post or a podcast with your permission. So just to close things up, I want to remind you, just like in the article that I wrote, that the stories that we tell ourselves are not set in stone. They're not written for good. You can rewrite them. You can revise them. You can take the eraser to the story you've been trying to tell yourself and modify it. So if you find yourself waiting to be ready, whether it's in fitness or in work or just something that you're trying to do in life, remember that right now you are more ready than you think. This next chapter is all yours to write. And remember, we're all in this together.